iPad is not unlocked. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Irena, and I will be sharing my testimony about how my cell group became my spiritual family. Growing up as a pastor's kid, church was all I had ever known. But over time, because of different experiences and hurt, church became associated with expectations, pressure, and disappointment, rather than a place of healing, community, and love. Vulnerability became a weapon that could be used against me or my parents, and I grew up having to be presentable as the pastor's daughter. Eventually, I stopped attending church altogether, and for several years, I stayed away. Not because I had stopped believing in God, but because I had built walls around my heart to protect myself from being hurt, and because, quite frankly, I had just become very cynical and jaded towards the church and its people. When I first came to Church of South End Chino, I carried that chip on my shoulder. While I knew I wasn't the only one who had experienced hurt from the church, I assumed very few people could understand what it was like to grow up as a pastor's kid. I was wrong. Within my first month at church, it felt like every other person I met was a pastor's kid. I think it was God's humorous way to show me that I wasn't as special as I thought I was, and that there were people out there who had gone through similar experiences but were still active members in the church and thriving in their faith. This sparked a curiosity in me that made me wonder what was different about this church. On my first day at Chino, I was given a green little bag, which later I found out was like a beacon for people to come and talk to me. Graham, who was my old cell leader in South End Anaheim, approached me, and while we were catching up, she asked if I wanted to join cell. The first thing I thought was, do I really want to subject myself to meeting a whole group of strangers once a week and do more church? Isn't going to Friday night prayer and church on Sundays enough? I'm still easing back into this church thing. I had done cell before at South End Anaheim, but if I'm being honest, I had always kept cell members at a distance and presented a version of myself that I thought was acceptable and would be considered being a good Christian. So while I was loved by my cell members, I wasn't truly being known. I decided to visit a cell just so I could say that I tried it and cross it off my checklist of being a good cell member. But I was prepared to have a mental emergency eject button to zone out and just say the bare minimum when it was my turn to share. Just enough to show that I was actually paying attention during Sunday sermons, but not anything too deep or personal that would make me share vulnerably. I wasn't aware that God had his own plans to use this group of women to change my life. It didn't happen all at once. It started when I first opened up and finally shared something vulnerable about my past, and instead of being met with judgment or criticism, I was met with love and compassion. Trust was built slowly, week by week, until finally I became more willing to share openly to the group of women who had also already been sharing vulnerably with me. I was finally being truly known and loved. When I navigated my divorce and later the loss of my mom, my cell sisters covered me in prayer, gave me the space to grieve, and faithfully walked beside me. Through them, God healed the wounds of my past, carried me through the wounds of my present, and transformed the way I see his church and his people. My cell sisters became my spiritual family, a community where we walked through life and faith together, and held each other accountable when the lies and distractions of the enemy tried to shake our foundation. Some sisters gave me gentle nudges when I needed encouragement, while others lovingly gave me the not-so-gentle kick in the butt when I needed to stop getting in my own way. Through my experience in cell, I learned that community requires a willingness to be known. If God could use a group of strangers to become a spiritual family for me, he can do the same for you. You never know how God might use a simple yes to transform your life, just as he did mine. Thank you.